Hey everybody, welcome back to Breakfast with Bob from CLASH Daytona. My name is Bob Babbitt. We're brought to you by NASCAR Foundation, Daytona International Speedway, USA Triathlon, Aquasphere, and Varlo. Our next guest just coming off an 11th place at the World Championships. Henri Schoeman joins us. Henri, how you doing, bud?
Yeah, I'm doing good, thank you.
Other years, you would look at 11th at the World Championship and go, oh, my God, I had an awful day. But with everything you've been through for the last year and a half, you have to look at that as sort of a victory.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I would be, generally, I'd be a little disappointed with that. But, you know, from where I've come from, 18 months ago was my last high-level race like that. And, you know, like, I kind of went into that race to test myself.
Right.
I'm not 100% yet with the ankle, with my elbow. So, I mean, I was literally just going in there and seeing, you know, what happens. And I had a great race. I can walk away happy and content with that.
So take us through everything that's happened, starting with, was it before the Olympics?
Yeah, before the Olympics, I mean, I went into the race with a bit of an injury. We didn't know the full extent of it, but I ran my ankle broken in the Olympics. And, you know, that was kind of, yeah, I mean, looking back, like a huge mistake. You know, you can't change in the past, but I mean, we had to move on and deal with that.
Right.
And that's been like a huge struggle. I ended up getting surgery 6 months after that. They had to.
Why did it take so long?
The talus. It's such a tricky bone to heal.
Okay.
It struggles to get
Blood flow.
blood
There's
flow
no
to
blood
that
flow there.
area.
Yeah.
And it started becoming non-union. So I mean, we had to kind of intervene with something and surgery to fixate the bone with 2 pins. And then with the surgery, like, there were also other complications because they had to get in and around ligaments and tendons.
Right.
So the whole ankle kind of had to recalibrate. And yeah, it's only like the last month or two really that I've been getting the biggest gains and progress in my running.
And then, while all that's going on, and then you did go fall on the bike.
Yeah, so, and then I go and fall on the bike. Yeah, puncture in the front wheel on a downhill. The tire slipped off. And I was down on the tar. So, I mean, that was kind of devastating. That was like a huge blow. I mean, already mentally challenging, like, to try and get through the ankle. And then, you know, to have the elbow break, like, it was almost detrimental. But, you know, got a strong team around me. I never gave up. 3 months later, found myself at World Champs. And I'm just, like, so happy I'm out racing, you know, living my life and living my dream. That's what I live for.
So for a lot of folks, there's a point where they decide, okay, listen, you've got a world championship with WTS Cozumel ITU Grand Final. You win that, you get a third at the Olympics. You've done everything you possibly can do at that distance. Is it time to move to more of the 100K? More of these distances, or do you still want to mix in both and go to another Olympics?
Yeah, I still want to mix it both. I'm still got my sights on Paris 24.
Okay.
I do enjoy the Super League still, so I like that speed. I've got that fast twitch. I still got that, so I really want to explore that as much as I can. I still have goals to be world champion.
Right.
2023, I've got big plans in the World Series, get my Olympic points, hopefully, you know, take a step on that podium at the end of the year. Mix up with Super League, and then I love to mix up with these races, the non-drafting, like 70.3 up to that with the PTO. I just love that kind of stuff. I like to kind of mix in all worlds and different competition, different challenges. I love that.
Well, and was it? Yeah, it was here in Daytona where you got 7th here at that when we had that $1 million prize purse.
Yeah.
That was probably as close to at that point. In terms of a Olympic style, in terms of the number of great athletes here, mixture from Ironman, from the ITU, and from the sort of middle
it was
distance.
Like a big show off, like off the back of 2020 when everyone was frustrated with no racing, and then we just all we prepared for this like as if it was like the world champs, like in triathlon across all distances. So it was really awesome to be part of that.
What was the lowest point for you during this last 18 months?
Well, there were many.
Yeah.
Every time I get back like an MRI result, that was always like some of the hardest points. And then sometimes, you know, in the last few months, like I couldn't even get around some weekends when there was racing happening. Like I just wanted to know nothing about what's happening with the races, my friends competing. And then with the elbow, because I finally got myself ready to race, and then the elbow, and then I was just, you know, it's just like, when does it stop, you know?
Right.
but I really picked myself up like once I started getting into like some more consistent training and more consistent like progression. So that's really where I started coming out of that. And but yeah, I mean it's a super tough struggle, like with an injury so long.
How far were you into the run when your foot basically?
Well, I mean, it was really sore. I mean, I tried to test it one day before, and it wasn't good. But you know, like I was hoping riding on that, the adrenaline of racing would help. And
you never know.
Take a painkiller or something, maybe that would help too. But yeah, it was like one lap I was there with the front guys, like no problem. And then the second lap of the 2.5K, really it started getting real bad. And I pulled off after the 5Ks, and yeah, I couldn't walk anymore.
Oh God, that has to be worse. But the thing is, what would have been worse is not starting and not knowing, because you never know.
I mean, yeah, that's the thing. You never know. I'm an athlete going into that games, you know, primed and ready to win a medal.
Yes.
And it's hard to kind of break that focus, and because I mean, you go all into the Olympics. I mean, it's only 4 years every time you get to the Olympics. So sometimes if you have an injury, you can deal with it afterwards. But I mean, I didn't know the extent of what I was going to deal with after that.
Well, of course, if you know you're going to break it, you don't go. But you don't know, because we hear that all the time of somebody going to the start line a little sick or a little injured, and things loosen up and they have the best race ever.
Absolutely. Like I've had that experience before. So I mean, I was hoping on that. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I'm much wiser now. Hopefully I'll learn a big lesson from that, and and look after my body in the last like 10 years of my career.
So after racing here, and people sometimes look at this and go, "Oh gosh, it's flat. It's not a big deal." For people who don't know, it's pretty brutal to be in that aero position for all that long.
Yeah, I've seen from the PTO in 2020 Daytona. So I mean, I've seen guys cramping up in their hip flexors because they don't stretch it out. So I mean, I'm aware of that. You need to get out of that saddle a few times, even if it breaks the aero, but you need to stretch your hip flexors, otherwise you're going to struggle on that run.
So how did your life change when you come home with the bronze medal from Rio?
As an athlete, I think I was just more confident in myself and my own abilities, because and also believing in myself.
Right.
No one really believed in me. Like I had Richard Murray at that time. He was like everyone was rooting for to get the medal for South Africa, and no one really picked me as a podium spot. I've never been on a major podium before that.
Really?
Never. So the Olympics was my first one. And yeah, I mean, it gave me confidence. Like I was just a different athlete after that.
It changes you, doesn't it? I remember Jan Frodeno. I think when he won the gold in 2008, I don't think he'd won a WTS race leading.
I believe so. Yeah. I mean, he was also like similar. He's never won like a major. No. I mean, for me, I was never on a podium.
Right.
I was fourth before a couple times, but I mean, never on that podium. And to do it at the Olympics, not a better way to do it, right?
That's the best. That is the best. But people must have been, when you came home, there must have been a lot of excitement.
Oh yeah, it was crazy. When I got home, when I got at the airport, my two schools that I was in, all their children were there at the airport, like cheering me on, had flags, had pictures. It was like such a sensational experience, and I think it inspired quite a few people back home.
Did it change more people involved with the sport of triathlon, more growth of the sport after that?
Absolutely. I think definitely with the younger generation, they took more interest into it. And there's been it's been 6 years now, and some of those youngsters are now starting to get a little bit more serious.
Try to kick your butt.
Yeah, well, but yeah, I mean, it's great to have them, getting involved with it first. And yeah, hopefully something down the line with South Africa, we'll get some development of the athletes through. But I mean, I don't know if you know, but like we have zero support in South Africa.
Right. You support yourselves.
We support ourselves. So that's the hardest part of it, is to try. And that's why there's such a big gap between, say, myself and the next generation, because they're not out there testing themselves.
They need to be on the world scene.
Yeah.
And it's hard to do because you can't it's not like you can go away for the weekend. When you're coming from South Africa, it's a commitment to go anywhere.
It's a big travel every time, and you need money for that.
Right, you definitely. Henry, have a great race. It's so good to see you back healthy.
Yeah, thank you, Bob. It's so good to be around here and feeling good and confident again.
I love it. Henri Schoeman has been our guest, everybody. Again, Breakfast with Bob from CLASH Daytona. Hold on. We will be right back.